watching you a long time, of course, as of many people, and excited to hear what you have to say on a lot of stuff. I've enjoyed watching a lot of your clips the last few years, and especially lately when I've been writing about like Bellator and PFL and the new Global Fight League, I like to call it. And, well, that's what it's called, but I like to say it that way. And especially the stuff you've been saying about how these promotions sustain themselves. So the first thing that was kind of on my mind today was, why can't a lot of these organizations sustain themselves? I've seen organizations come and go up here in Canada in with my own two eyes, and I kind of think, why is it so difficult? Because, and what do I know, right? But sort of the don't pay people too much that you can't afford, go with how many seats you can sell at a venue, how many VIP tickets you could sell. What do you think is the biggest mistake that a lot of these organizations are making?
Well, at the larger levels, you can't compete with the monopoly. You can't compete with the UFC. In prize fighting, in order to get eyeballs on your fighters, on your events, you have to have access to the highest title, and you have to have access to the highest level of athletes. On the lower levels, it's difficult because when you build up a fighter, when you sign a fighter, you have him fight, he gets popular. Eventually, he has to leave your organization and go to the UFC. So you put all this time and money and effort into promoting somebody and making sure everybody knows who he is. And a second where he becomes enough of a name to make money, and where you would make money off of him, they leave and they have to go to the bigger promotion because the UFC monopolizes the top talent and the only title that anybody really recognizes.
So how many of these promotions then throw their hands up in the air and say, okay, I'm happy to be on Fight Pass and I'll be a feeder league of sorts to the UFC or to Bellator maybe a few years ago? Does that happen often?
Well, I think that's what everybody is doing and has been doing for a while, because they know they can't compete. So they just try to make money for themselves. And a lot of what they're doing is dressing up a turd. They make their promotion look great. They tell all the investors that, hey, we're going to be competitors and we're going to take part of this market. And they have no real intention to. They just want to get investors and sponsors, and they just keep going over and over and over again, getting new people to put money in. When they don't go anywhere, they just find somebody new to put money in until they can't do it anymore. And then they have to sell to another promotion or shut down.
So when I heard you say something similar to that recently, I thought that was sort of the same thing Dana White has been saying, where he said this model where people are shifting over to boxing, for example, isn't working because you can't rely on a Saudi trillionaire forever. Is that what most of these places do? Is like sell until
first off, Dana talks out of both sides of his mouth. And first off, like, what are people comparing boxing to? People saying boxing's not thriving, but ever since 2000 with the Ali Act, boxing's more than doubled its revenues adjusted for inflation. So, like, what is the marker? What marker are they going by? Like, what viewership numbers are they talking about, and what revenue are they talking about? Because they keep bashing on boxing, but like, I don't hear any actual numbers. No one's ever brought any type of numbers forward that show that they're not doing well. And yes, the Saudi money came in, but like some of these other promoters, they've been in business for 25, 35 years. So how are these promoters who only get to make 20% of the person, they only get 20% of the money being brought in, opposed to the UFC making 80% or more, but they're still in business, and they've been in business for decades. So like, I don't understand the whole, boxing's dead. How? Explain to me. Well, we don't see the best matchups. We just saw Usyk like fight Fury twice and take all the heavyweight titles. We see multiple times where we have cross promotion events and guys winning multiple titles in that ecosystem. Yes. Okay. Canelo isn't fighting Benavidez, and he should. That's the fault of the belts. The sanctioning body's not enforcing mandatories. There's mandatories. Boxing does need more mandatories. But people are talking out of their ass usually. They're just repeating stuff that they hear promoters say bashing on boxing. But like these guys are making money. You can go and look at what events are being held by these athletic commissions and what money is being made and raised. There's a ton of events. There's a ton of weight classes, a ton of titles. Like you can't have that unless there's money. Like if there were there's only 2 boxing events a year. We have to cut weight classes because we don't have enough athletes to fill the weight classes. We don't have enough guys to fight for the titles. Like, what are you talking about? It makes no sense. Like, I want to hear one logical argument that these guys keep saying. They just yell and scream, "It's dead. I don't like it. It's bad." How? Explain to me, please. I don't get it.
Yeah, and if I just go based off of what my experience is, just as a casual, like I'm not a huge boxing guy. Like I'll watch the big fights, but
and I'm not a diehard either. I don't know who all the guys are. I mostly watch the big fights, but I love combat sports. So if something comes across my timeline and I can watch it, I'm going to watch it. There are some weird things going on with promotion, and you're not hearing about when fights are, because I follow a lot of these, social media accounts of all these big promotions, MMA and boxing. And there's times where I'm like, whoa, there's big fights happening tonight. I hadn't even hear about it. So like, I think the biggest problem with combat sports, honestly, is the consumption model, right? It's hard to watch because before we used to watch it on free TV, ABC Sports, right? NBC Sports. It was free on TV. So you saw the big fights. Then you had HBO and Showtime. So you only had like 2 places to watch. But now it's like there's a million streaming services. There's different paywalls. I mean, UFC themselves, you have to pay for the
app and then pay for the pay-per-view.
ESPN, then you have to pay for the pay-per-view. And it's like, like you're paying 3 different walls to get through, right? You got to pay for the cable company, you got to pay for the ESPN, then you got to pay for the pay-per-view. So it's like, I think that's more of a problem than, the Ali Act, especially. They're trying to say Ali Act's a problem, but like most people have no idea what the Ali Act does. And the fact that boxing's making way more money as a whole internationally as they ever have since it passed. And boxers are doing amazing. John Nash does a lot of reporting. The reporter John Nash does a lot of reporting on the money. I don't see anybody who goes into the money as in depth as John does. And he showed years ago, that boxers make more money on every level compared to MMA fighters, except for the 85 to 95 percentile guys in the UFC.
Yeah, all I was going to mention was that in my lifetime, I've seen boxing. Like, obviously, there was a lull, but for the people in my age group, and I think I'm about 10 years younger than you, the consumption of boxing has increased in the last 5 years as people sort of are able to watch whatever they want to watch as opposed to just what's presented to them. So for big fights like Fury and stuff and Anthony Joshua, people are still, I think, turning out for that. I wanted to ask you, how much, as a fighter, especially in MMA, how much reliance is there on there when it comes to contract time? How many pay-per-views can you sell? Is that still as important as it was 20 years ago? Or with the amount of pirating that's going on, can that still be used as much of leverage?
Yeah, exactly. And you also have with UFC, they have, their broadcast contracts, like their primary source of revenue was pay-per-views before. Now it's not. Now they're getting guarantees from ESPN and these other platforms. And they're making a lot of money with all the merchandising, other stuff they're doing also. So like, yeah, the pay-per-view I think is less important than it used to be. You do have a lot of people who are illegally streaming, and there's that's one reason why it's really hard to get an idea of how many people are watching. We don't know how many people are watching certain events. So the pay-per-view doesn't sell, doesn't mean that a buttload of people didn't watch it. Because I can't remember what fight it was. There was a boxing match where people were like, oh, see, look at the pay-per-view numbers are so low. But everywhere I turned, everybody was talking about it. So like everybody I knew and everybody who I interacted with, even casual people who didn't watch fights, had watched the event, had watched it. So I'm like, well, the pay-per-view count actually means little to nothing.
Now, I want to ask you about the GFL. I've seen you talk about that briefly, I think. I look at that. Again, I've been watching UFC since it started, MMA. all the way through its lifespan, I guess I could say. I'm seeing Thiago Alves. I'm seeing, who else am I seeing there? Everyone who said they were retired.
Mhm.
Is this, have you looked into it? Is this a viable model? They're basically doing the point system that World Series of Fighting, I think, did, or PFL did, with the teams and everything. Do you think this will work?
I think first off, anybody in combat sports, anybody who's in prize fighting, a promoter who calls himself a league, that's an immediate red flag.
Why is that?
That's not a league. What's the definition of a league? There has to be multiple owners under one sanctioning organization. There are no leagues in prize fighting. You can't have a league in prize fighting.
So do you think that, irrespective, I think is the word of that, do you think that this model can be, with the team format that they're doing with the points, you
IFL,
seemingly every three, International Fight League,
yes, they already tried the team thing. It doesn't sell. It's prize fighting. People want to know who the one top guy is. They want to see the top 10 guys, the top 20 guys fight and get their rankings and get their titles and fight for those titles. That's what sells in prize fighting. Prize fighting is not a new thing. Like, Dana White didn't reorganize prize fighting, right? He monopolized a certain branch of it. And we know for hundreds of years what people want to watch and see. It's not going to change. You can't put these restrictions up on the fight game and put little fancy bells and whistles on and try to sell it. And again, it goes back to, I think they're just trying to get money from investors because they dress up a turd, right? People who don't know fighting, they're not around prize fighting. They don't get it. Like, oh, wow, teams. Wow. Oh my God. There's a team in every city. Wow. These guys. Oh, wow. Look at the social media followings of all the guys they have signed. Oh, wow. Let's get money into this because that's going to go big. They don't know anything about it. So they're getting fleeced. I think it's a scam.
That's what marketing is. And when you really, when you become an old enough as a man, you start to see money just being passed around in a circle based on promises. It's a lot. It seems like a lot of a waste of time. And I don't know. I can't say that I've ever been excited for the format in that sense. How do you feel about Karate Combat? That's been one I've actually gone out of my way to watch, which is rare in this day and age, I think.
I've caught a few shows and I like what they're doing. Same thing with bare knuckle. I think combat sports, I love combat sports. I'm going to, tune me in, whatever, right? If I can see it, I want to watch it. I recently got a subscription to Flow Sports, right? And they have Flow Wrestling, Flow Grappling, Flow MMA, right? And they have a lot of live submission grappling events. So I will watch those. I watch freaking high school state tournaments from wherever. Like, they do a great job. Like, they had this Spencer Lee and Ono had a match, and they had basically 10 bouts that night of just straight up freestyle wrestling. It was outstanding. It was great to watch. So I'm all about that stuff. But I get really bent out of shape when there's restrictions to combat or competition, when like certain guys can't fight for the title because they're signed with the wrong promoter. Like, that's a restriction on competition, and it needs to be removed because it's not a sport once that happens.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that as well, because I heard you mention something a few weeks ago about getting trapped into, a title fight. And I think you said most people don't want to, throw the fight so that they don't have to be guaranteed to defend it. Was that something that you witnessed or knew a guy who was under a contract like that, where if you win, you automatically have to defend, and that's in their contract?
Yeah, that was something they learned. I think it was with BJ Penn, right? Because BJ Penn won welterweight, and then he left because they offered him more money to fight somewhere else, right? And to prevent that from ever happening again, they put in the mandatory, you have to defend the title. So you win, you have to defend. That's one of the great things about the Ali Act in boxing, is that when you win a title, you're immediately a free agent. So like, you win a world title, you're at your most valuable. So you have earned the right to go see what you're worth on the free market.
So is that what you think happened with Ngannou then?
That is what happened because of the class action lawsuit. The UFC put in sunset clauses into contracts, 5-year sunset clause, which after Ngannou, they took that away because they realized, oh shit, guys might actually exercise their right. Ngannou fought out his contract. He had 1 year left until his contract was up. He sat out, became a free agent. And then what do you know? There was actual bidding. That was the first time since maybe mid 2000s or before that MMA promoters actually got into a bidding war over a fighter. The only time, one time it's happened in like 20 something years.
Who are you thinking of in your head that happened back then?
What's that?
Who are you thinking of in your head of the person that they fought over 20 years ago?
It was probably BJ.
Okay. I was going to say maybe Fedor.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess, yeah, you would say Fedor was in there because UFC did try to get him, but he was like, yeah, your contracts are like very restrictive and garbage. And he said no and ended up going to somebody else. But that was more of them having awful contracts versus not, going to the highest bidder, because they probably were offering more money, but like it was so restrictive long term. He didn't want to sign a soul away.
Got to get that Brock Lesnar contract, I guess. I wanted to ask you about the older fighters. When we see them, is the reason, how much of it is I can't not fight anymore, I love it so much, and how much of it is guys who need the money? What percentage of fighters would you say live above their means, and they really, maybe they're going contract to contract?
Man, how many people, period, live above their means today? We live in the biggest debt bubble in world history, right? So I think it's a little bit hard to just attack all these fighters, these irresponsible fighters. Life in today's society is living, eating out, and homes and things they can't afford. So that one society in the Western society is doing that. So I don't think you can really single out just the fighter. Oh, the fighters are the ones that are bad with money. I think everybody's pretty bad with it right now. I think that's part of it. Part of it is it's hard to not fight. It's a hard, I retired in September. It'll be 5 years ago, and I still get the itch. I still man, I still got it. I go in, I teach class, and I roll with people, and I'm like, oh, I still got it. Maybe I got one left in me, or maybe I should go do a bare knuckle fight, or maybe I should go do a celebrity boxing type thing. So it's still there. But I think a lot of it is these guys just can't afford healthcare and basic necessities that you need for life. Not even that they're overspending or they're partying or whatever.
When we look at, I just lost my train of thought. When we look at the fighter health is what I'm trying to get at. You don't look as old as you say you are. As old as you say you are. As old as you actually are. He's lying about his age. I was going to ask, you have a better access to the health technology that would be used around fighters. What is it that we're seeing? Kind of people aren't aging as fast in the fight game anymore. I think we're seeing guys in their 40s compete at very high levels, where you used to see guys 30. Randy Couture, we can mention, when he was in his mid to late 30s, they were like, oh my god, he's so old, he won the heavyweight title again. Is it stem cells? Is it just everybody's not aging as fast? What is your take on that as a guy who's around these people? I still got you.
Okay. You froze for a second there. Well, man, so I've talked about this on my show before too, but ever since there's two major events, I think that kind of changed all of sports landscape in the past 15 years or so. And that was Lance Armstrong and the Balco scandal. Am I saying that right? Right. And that was when all of the top tier knowledge and science that all of the best Olympians and football players and everybody at the, highest level, all the technology and science that they had to play and make tens and hundreds of millions of dollars got released basically to the public. And now any Joe Schmo with the internet connection can access the same things that those guys were accessing, and they know how to do it. And they know the protocols. So, who's it? The Gordon Ryan. He talks openly about steroid use. I think there's a lot of that going on, right? And I don't think that USADA or any of those companies really are doing much to prevent it. I think, some guys are allowed to get away with things because they're big money makers. And I think that's just I think we need to have a real honest conversation about some of the things that are going on, because I don't think it's a problem that's been reduced in any way. I think it's hard to think that anybody's not using something, because you got peptides, the stem cells. There's a lot of stuff that people have access to today that wasn't available 20 years ago, or people didn't understand how to use 20 years ago.
Would you condemn the steroid break that we're seeing now? Let me go take a year off, do a bunch of roids, get some of my de-aging in, and then coming back?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, what's the answer? How do you really police this without really invading people's privacy? And it's like, okay, we're gonna drug test you every morning. We're gonna have a drone robot follow you around. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Do you think that's cheating though?
In a sense, yes, but I don't know how you stop it. I don't know. I don't know. That's my thing. I think it is cheating, and I think it needs to be stopped, and it should be removed and get it out of here. But at the same time, it's hard to stop. And you have the argument that, that I'm not saying I'm not supportive of, but it's like, oh, well, this is a business and it's a show, and the entertainment's the most important thing. Like, I feel like that's what we've come into in today's market is like, it's just about entertainment. It's just pro wrestling. So like, who's going to watch Hulk Hogan if he's not juiced to the gills? Who's going to watch the Ultimate Warrior if he doesn't have all the veins popping out of him all the time? Who's going to watch a scrawny Randy Savage?
Just makes me think of the Ultimate Warrior promos that he'd cut. The plane crashing. When you talk about that plane crashing, Hulk Hogan,
control into a nosedive, Hulk Hogan.
And you're the pilot.
Yeah, so, I mean, so it's just like, so do you want a legal, like, real sport where you have regular testing and it's meritocracy and merit based, or do you want the shit show circus that's pro wrestling? It's like, which one do you want, guys? You can't have both.
I think most MMA fans have heard the John Jones story of hiding under the octagon when USADA came around. Mm-hmm. Is there any stories you've heard of that kind of passed the snuff to being as crazy as that, of avoiding the drug tests?
No.
No.
I haven't heard any crazy stuff like that. Although I don't know, man. I don't. I've been tested by commissions and stuff, and like, okay, go in that room and put your urine on the tray with the other urine, and it's like, you go in the room, there's nobody there. So it's like, okay, what if I just move stuff around and change the label, or like, there's nobody watching it.
When was the last year you were witness to that, would you say?
I've seen things like that on and off throughout my entire career. Just
no real security around it.
Yeah, like nobody, like I don't know. It wasn't like, I didn't. It wasn't always, but like there was a few times where I was like, this doesn't seem very serious.
Yeah. I don't know. I got drug tested in the military, and that guy, he was gazing. Let's just say he was watching.
Yeah, because I've heard stories about guys using like the wiener thing. And,
yeah.
And like I heard one story. Somebody just had somebody pee in a sandwich bag.
Oh. Yeah, my drug test was by accident. They called me and they came up. We were doing some training. They came up in a van. They were like, "You three get in the van." Essentially, we get there. We pee in the cup. The guy looks at the name on my bottle. He's like, you're the wrong guy. Never tell anyone that this happened. They send back and they go pick up the other guy whose last name was similar to mine. So that was, but he was looking. He was meat gazing, as they say. You mentioned bare knuckle boxing. Now that's got Conor McGregor owning it, saying that he's going to fight in that. Do you believe it? Why has he not fought in so long, in your opinion?
Well, besides all the pending rape accusations, I don't know how this guy's ever allowed on TV ever by anybody. How is this guy still selling stuff? How are people still in support of him? Like, there's been multiple accounts of him doing very inappropriate things, and it's just weird. It's just weird to me. And yeah, it's weird that they would even get into bed with him on a financial level. I don't get it. I don't think he's ever fighting again. I said a long time ago he's never fighting again. I think his leg injury was catastrophic. They just keep dangling that carrot of, oh, Conor might fight again, just because they're gonna pull money in from people just because of that. It's just a carrot on the stick. I think he knows that he hasn't. I think he's known for a long time he's never gonna fight again. I think that's why he's always. He looks like he's always enjoying the nose candy, the booger sugar. He's always super red, like he's super drunk all the time. I just, I think he's been done for a long time, and they're just pretending that he might fight again sometime on a lot of these stages just to keep milking money off of him. And the UFC keeps covering up as much as they can about him because they want to be able to keep making money off of him forever. They want to keep selling him. I think that's why they push Jon Jones so hard. He's the greatest. He's the greatest. He's the greatest, because they own him. They own Jon Jones, right? They own him in a way that no one was ever able to own Muhammad Ali or Bruce Lee, right? Think about if a corporation or a film studio or Don King, like one of Ali's promoters, owned everything about Ali.
What do you mean by that?
His family would never see a dime off of anything, any T-shirt, any movie, anything ever done that said Ali on it. They wouldn't make any money from that.
Are you saying they have all of Jon Jones like likeness rights?
Yes, they own him. They own him.
Oh, I didn't know that. So,
they own every fighter. That was my whole thing back in. That was when they started hating on me. Was 2008. They wanted me to sign my image and likeness rights away for $0.
How long would that last for? Just for the fight
Forever.
contract? Forever.
Oh
my God.
I asked them, I wasn't even asking for money. I asked them to put a sunset clause on it for 20 years.
Mm-hmm. So they
said, you're gone. And they did it was a whole theatric release. Like, they didn't contact me. They didn't talk to me. They had the press ready to go in the morning to start blasting this stuff out, because there are a lot of other fighters who weren't going to sign that contract. They weren't going to sign the merchandising agreement because it was terrible also. And they used that and orchestrated this whole thing to scare everybody else into signing, and it worked. And now they have guys that they're signing, they're forcing them to sign a part of their contract, a promotional contract, that they won't join in any class action lawsuits.
Yeah, I remember reading about that, of the class action lawsuits. Does it bother you? I'll give you an example of what I mean. Does it bother you when people don't really get that things are being promoted, like the Conor thing, like it's being dangled in front of you? I get bothered by that I'm up in Canada. When people say something's happening in Canada, I'm like, you're just buying into whatever you're being told through media channels. Does it bother you when people are just like, oh, I can't wait for this to happen, and it sort of feeds into the machine? Or can you not really blame people for not knowing that in depth of what goes on?
It kind of is what it is. People, if they don't want to wake themselves up and they don't want to see what's going on, like, there's nothing you can do about it. It's like, you can't, I don't know. You can't force people to look.
I'll tell you something I have an issue with: when the announcers are acting like the fighters are way better than they are. How much do you think, how much leeway do the commentators get in terms of that?
Yeah, I think they get everything scripted for them. Robin Black, he just had a really awesome interview with somebody and posted a little segment on Instagram like yesterday or a day ago or something like that. And he was just talking about like everything with UFC. He can't watch it with the sound on because everything is just marketing sales. Everything's a sales pitch. Like, this guy's the number one, whatever. This guy's the whatever. Like it's comical and sad, and just I can't take it. It's just all. It's like back in the 90s when you open up your computer and you open the wrong file and you get all the pop-ups. Right? I feel like that's what all the commentary is now when you watch a UFC event. It's just those freaking annoying ass pop-ups, and you gotta keep turning the pop-ups off.
I have a definite ranking
Shut up
system
and
of
tell me what's happening. Just tell me what's happening. I don't need to know all this extra bull crap because, and it's a problem just with scaling because they want to get to as many people as possible. So they got to water down the product so it's more easy for mass of people to consume. And a big focus of what they're doing right now is gambling. So they gotta get as much viewership as they can. So they gotta water things down. They gotta do as much sales as possible to get low vibration, low thinking people who don't give a shit about fighting. They don't care. They just are gambling. They just want to gamble, or they're pro wrestling fans who just want the drama. Right? They care more about the things that were said outside the cage than the techniques used and the way people are fighting in the cage.
Do you think that that's a net negative with how much stuff is being backed by gambling money, right down to, YouTube influencers who have a teenager audience? Do you think that's just the way it goes? Like, you could be gambling criminal. Cigarettes. You could be, you want to see something happen with that? I have friends who share that opinion.
Yeah, like everybody, the messaging, like you, yourself, and everybody who has any kind of platform, just make sure people know that gambling's gay. Right? It's terrible. You're a loser. Gambling is for losers. 100%. 100% losers. You can't even put the $5, $10, $20 on yourself. Like, buy a book that helps you do something better. No, I'm gonna gamble. I'm gonna get my parlay and the spread and it's stupid. It's stupid. You're retarded for gambling. You're a dumb person. At least drug addicts get high.
No DraftKings sponsorship. No promo code for you coming in the future.
Promo code Fitch Smash. Yeah. Fuck out of here.
Anytime I watch.
It's just gross.
Anytime I watch some sort of English television, that all it is makeup for transgenders and gambling. Bet365.com. But also don't bet too much. They have the anti-gambling ad embedded within the gambling ad, and it says at the bottom, don't gamble.
Can't blame us. We told you not to do it.
English TV is the worst. I don't know how much of that you consume. I get a lot of it up here with the lady watching.
It's everything. It's just like every 2 minutes, everything you watch is like, let's go to the spread and whoever's bets picks for this thing. It's like, man, they're freaking.
It's gotten into literally every broadcast.
Chill. It's a spelling bee. What are the odds that he's gonna get this word right?
I like when they do the odds for political things on gambling websites, especially like elections, like this, and a lot of people in the news media don't get it. I don't know if you're aware of this. They don't understand gambling, so they'll see so and so is favored -110, and then that shifts because a bunch of people had bet on it, and it shifts completely in the other direction. It's like, but now it's saying it's the exact opposite. That means that person's going to win. So it's a problem, I think.
It's dumb. It's dumb. It's like the most useless way to make money. You didn't do anything. I picked a winner. Like, go be a winner. read a book. Go lift something. Go for a jog.
Something I had on my mind to ask you was I checked out your website, I think a few weeks ago, and I noticed that all the classes you do. What would you say people are looking for most based on what they pay for to get out of what you can teach? What do you think can you extrapolate on your best selling things on society?
Yeah, well, it really depends on the gym. So I reach out, I kind of cold call a lot of places and just see, what they're interested in and what they want. There are gi gyms, that do, gi jujitsu, and they want a big focus of theirs is like wrestling for jujitsu. They want to help with their takedowns and their takedown defense. And I can also sprinkle in a little bit of, wrestling, wrestling, a wrestling view on a lot of jiu-jitsu positions, right? And there's MMA gyms, and they want fight stuff. And because of my wrestling background, they want to find ways to get from their striking, from their feet, to being able to take somebody down. People want to escape from bottom. They've had some fighters who have struggled with wrestlers, so they want to figure out a way to stop the wrestling or get up from bottom. It depends a lot on the gym, the individual gym. And then there are, well, the one thing that does bother me the most is not that many people are interested in self-defense. It's the weirdest thing to me. It's like, oh, I don't know anything about fighting, but like, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll just get mad, or
it's a bit of
I carry a gun around like this all the time, so nobody's gonna mess with me. It's like that's the biggest cop out too. Is like, oh, that's why I carry a gun. I was like, dude, like if I'm standing next to you and I grab you, good luck getting your gun. Like I'm gonna take it from you.
Well, that's surprising to me because a lot of what I think about is what happens if somebody, tries to kill me, especially in the middle of the night when I'm in bed. I thought that all men think about that. Now well,
first off, sleep naked, because no one wants to get beat up by a naked guy.
I'm no IFL superstar. I did take karate. I was a karate champion. I'll pat myself on the back for that in high school. But I think about like what happens. Somebody comes in, or I'm walking down the street. What if? Should I yell at that guy when I'm driving by him for cutting me off, or does he know how to kill me? Those are things I think about, and I thought all men think about. What happens if that guy's in the mob? What happens if he's got a knife? These are the things I think about. So to hear you say that not that many people care about self-defense, I would encourage people to think about how quickly you can be murdered, I guess.
Yes, how fast it can happen, how quickly things go bad. Everybody thinks they know how to fight until they're in a fight, and then, oh, shit.
Was that as big of a thing that they say it was back in the day, especially we're talking 04, 06, 08, people wanting to beat up UFC fighters or MMA fighters in bars?
Hell no. Like, no.
Never a thing?
Like, I'm sorry, just having a certain demeanor about yourself, somebody who knows how to fight, like, carries themselves differently. They do. They have an aura about them. And unless you're a psychopath or just completely inept to what's going on around you, you're probably going to stay clear of that type of aura. Like, for example, like the Joe Schilling incident, like that guy was clueless, right? And people don't know, like this guy was drunk and harassing a bunch of people. Joe Schilling walked by him, and the guy did a little, like a I'm gonna hit you flinch, and Joe Schilling gave him a 2-piece and put him out.
It's also Matt Serra detaining a guy at like a resort or something, I think it was.
I think that might have been like a diner, a Vegas diner or something.
Okay.
Something like that. There was another guy, I can't remember, he was in, I don't know if it was Amsterdam, he was somewhere like that. There was another black belt. Some guy was saying he was gonna rob him, and then he like took him down, took his back, and then mounted him and waited for the police to come. Like, if you know a little bit about grappling, like when you grab somebody who doesn't know anything, it's literally like grabbing a child. It's grabbing a squirmy child. Like it's such a superpower. And for people to be like, oh, I don't need to do that. I got my gun, or I got a knife, right? Whatever. It's silly. It's silly because it really is. Like I've literally seen 120-pound women like make 250-pound men look like little kids.
That's exactly what I was going to say, especially for women, something like jiu-jitsu or anything they can I want to say if a girl can put a guy in a triangle or an armbar, there's not much you're going to be able to do.
It doesn't even have to be that complicated. Like situational awareness and putting yourself in the right position, space management, controlling distance, and like knowing that like if I just poke this guy in the eye, like he's done. you know,
Groin, eye, throat.
no, and I like it doesn't, you don't have to be all, oh, I'm going to do like a fucking 16 step Uma Pilata, Gogo Pilata finish, do my Baron Bolo. And like, it doesn't take that much. It's just like, I keep you at arm's length. I keep my hands in front of me. And like, if things come down to it, like I can twist your finger, poke you in the eye, chop you in the throat. Good night. Walk away.
It's true. I'm nobody. I once put a 220-pound guy in a triangle. He ran after me for a really long time after that. Like, he was my friend. I knew the guy, but he did not like that he couldn't do anything. That was a good time. I'm not bragging about my skills or anything though. That sounded sarcastic. It wasn't. What's before I let you go, what's on Jon Fitch's mind politics wise? Anything?
Everything online and political is FGR. Fake, gay, retarded.
I was trying to work that out in my head.
Right?
I couldn't.
It's either one of those, two of those, or all three. Okay. The whole K-Fab pro wrestling thing, it's everywhere. Like, don't just look about what they're doing. It's like, why are they doing it? Who's this benefit? Or how's it benefit?
The powers that be.
Look at those things. Most stuff is just smoke and mirrors. You're better off paying attention to economics and what's going on with the economics of the country. That's going to tell you a lot more than he said, she said. Oh, I can't believe it. That type of stuff.
Something that really bothers me is something I used to hear when I was a kid. Oh, recessions just happen and the economy's just down. And now I'm like, actually, there's policies that go into that cause these things to happen. Something I ask a lot of people, is there anyone that you can say, I follow, I could put my hat on, kind of that person who's a politician?
Politician? No. Like, I think politicians are in it for themselves. Like, you have to pay attention. Look, man, it's not about good or bad. It's about, what is it? What is the word I'm looking for? The tendencies, what are their behaviors, their
what they're beholden to?
No, like a lion. Like a lion just has its way, right? A lion does lion things, right? It's not bad or good. It's not bad that it killed a gazelle to eat. It's just a lion. That's just
what's its nature?
It's its nature. That's it. What's its nature? Thank you. What's its nature? I don't know. I get brain farts sometimes. What's in a thing's nature? What's in a politician's? What's in a person's nature? Right? Look at what these people have done over time, and look to see what's their nature. What do they do? You know, are they a scammer? Are they cut deals and say things to get something on the back door? Like, just look at their nature, not whether or not they're good or bad. And you'll get a lot farther with things. And it's not so much that this politician's good, but this politician, his nature may do things that I can plan my finances. I can plan my future based off of what his nature is, right? The lion's going to kill and eat. So if I can plan around that, I can benefit and lift myself up off of whatever he's going to do, because that's what he's going to do. Not like, oh my God, I can't believe he did that thing. I'm devastated. Right. I think you're better off with that. But yeah, I have put most of my time, energy into like listening to economic people and what they're saying, because end of the day, that's where everything happens, right? That's where things are really going to happen. I think nothing's going to get better until we put a cap on businesses, corporations, and individual entities on owning multiple homes, multiple properties. I think if you have BlackRock owning hundreds of thousands of homes, I think I heard the other day that California, 50% of home ownership is private ownership, only 50%. That means like corporations or somebody leasing or renting out that space is owning the other 50%. That's why home prices are so high, because like these companies, they'll hold on to that price and not sell a home because they can afford to take a loss in one place because they're making money in another place. Where an individual, if they can't afford, they'll have to sell. But now you have hugely marked up homes that shouldn't be that price, but they are because, oh, some corporation owns it, BlackRock owns it, and they can just sit on that property for as long as they want to.
Yeah, foreign investors are a big problem where I live, where it's
Mm.
the same deal. A guy
Right.
in China owns 16 houses. He doesn't.
Yeah.
I came across that a guy didn't want to rent to me unless he had access to the basement anytime he wanted. And I was like, you're charging. I think at the time it was like $4,000 a month. This guy
Jeez.
wanted, and it's just like, no, it's fine. I don't need to rent the house that bad. And I was like, are you okay? But
Yeah,
do you?
and as
Yeah.
long as that stuff happens, it's going to keep happening, and I don't think anything gets better. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. That and I don't know if you guys have it there, but that and the property tax.
Yeah,
We do something about those two things.
Yeah,
Everything
they
else will get a
they
little bit
raise
better.
it every year here, pretty much a
Yeah,
couple percent.
yeah.
You mentioned people reacting to movements by politicians and saying, I can't believe they've done that. I think a lot of people have people like that in their lives. How would you or do you manage the expectations of people around you like that? If they're not, maybe they're a really busy person, it's not their fault they don't pay attention. I would say you should do it anyways, but how do you sort of help a person manage that, do you think?
Man, you can't force anybody to do anything. You can't help them unless they're asking for it. So you really just kind of have to like be empathetic and be like, yeah, oh wow, they're bitching and complaining or they're yelling, be like, okay, yeah, yeah, just listen to them, be like, okay, and then do your own thing because you're gonna beat yourself up, you're gonna destroy yourself trying to, well, you can't do that, you have to do this, don't listen to him, you know. It's just not gonna work. Like you gotta be the example, like live your life well, and hopefully those people will see you living well and be like, hey, well, what is he doing? Maybe I should talk to him.
Yeah, what are you doing to be so calm about things? That makes sense. I just think a lot of people, not my closest friend group, but when you start to do the second circle of people around you, they still want to live in that I don't need to pay attention to anything because it's not affecting me right now sort of thing, which I think is how we get to where I blame the
Well,
boomers a lot, John. I
well,
don't
you have,
know.
yeah, you have both. You have the people who don't pay attention at all with anything, and you have the people who are overly fixated on it.
Mhm.
Right? You got to find yourself somewhere in the middle, right? You got to focus on the things you can actually change and affect
Change.
around you. If you can't do anything about it, like why are you spending hours of your day yelling online, typing hard in all caps about it? You
I've
know?
never truly understood the paragraph comment on a website page. All power to you, but I've never truly understood the 6,000 word YouTube response. That's just me, but that's how I feel about that. Anything else you want to talk about before I let you go?
No, I travel, do seminars. I had somebody in Canada actually was trying to get me to seminar, but I gotta redo my passport. I've been
Mm.
busy. I got another baby on the way, so I've been busy with that stuff, and I'm prepping a house. I'm gonna put up for sale in the next month, and looking to relocate back to Midwest.
Mm. And you
Yeah,
live where now? California?
California, Bay Area, which is
The nicest, I hear.
it's not. It's not. The
It's
people
the
here
nicest.
they cope so hard. It's terrible. Like it's so dirty, and there's homeless people and people stealing your packages. And it's like if you go to like the $3 million 2-bedroom home neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, those are pretty nice because they pay the police a lot of money to pick all the trash and the bad people and take them to the rest of the city. Like there's like two, Los Altos, uh, Palo Alto, and Los Gatos. Those are like nice, but everything else is it's a little rough, man. But everybody like pretends that they're living in the $20 million mansions.
As they step over the poo piles.
Yes,
Um,
it's so bizarre. It's a bizarre thing to me. I don't get it.
don't you want to go somewhere without taxes? That's only South Dakota, right, in the Midwest?
Well, it depends. Like Texas, Florida. Uh,
Tennessee?
I don't know if Tennessee does.
No, no state tax there.
Texas, Florida, Nevada. I know don't have income tax,
Right.
but you could get stung with like property tax. and other taxes. Like either way, they're trying to take money from you. But I'm trying to get back to Indiana because
Okay.
my cost of living would be cut in half.
You're looking to just look out the window and just see flat. I don't have any
Yes.
idea how Indiana looks.
See trees, flat, or there's lots of lakes in northern Indiana, so there's a lot of
Okay,
lakes
cool.
up there. But no, I can cut my living cost in half, and I still can travel and do seminars and make the same amount of money. So I'll be doubling my income by moving
Exactly.
there.
Well, if you come up to Canada, I'll come interview you and bother you in real life. I'm good for that. I'm good for
Where are you at in Canada?
just like 20 minutes from Toronto, which should take 5 minutes, but it probably takes like an hour to get there most times at this point. There's too many people here,
Traffic?
John.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I don't like going anywhere here because it's traffic everywhere. Everybody's like, "Oh, this is totally normal." And every time I go drive anywhere, it reminds me of the dog in the burning building thing. It's like this is fine.
Yeah,
Like,
so
people are just all driving, just zoned out.
California and Ontario, Canada have the worst traffic in the continent. And then
That's
when I
wild.
went to Texas, people were complaining about 15-minute commutes. And I'm just like, are you insane? Like, the highway system in the United States is so much better. But Los Angeles and Toronto have, like, Toronto's even worse, if you can imagine that. Even worse. Statistically.
LA gets a lot of traffic, but people there, I think, drive better. They
Mm,
drive better. Up here in the Bay, they're awful drivers.
yeah, gotta
That's just not
look out for those
traffic and bad
drive-bys.
drivers, like people weaving in and out and like slamming on their brakes. And in California, everybody wants to drive in the left lane, even if they're going slow.
That's a big problem here, too. I'm going to blame immigration for that one, too, is what I'm gonna do.
That's why I like Iowa. It's a law in Iowa that you have to get over to the right. You only pass on the left. So if you're driving in the left too long, they'll pull you over and give you a ticket.
It's the law here. I don't think I've ever seen
Clap for
anyone be
Iowa,
pulled over.
everybody. Let's
Iowa potatoes? That's the
yeah,
potato.
give it
Or
to
Idaho.
Iowa's like that.
Potatoes? Is that Idaho or Iowa?
Idaho's potatoes. Iowa's wrestling.
Right. Hawkeyes. Do you know the potato place in Canada?
No,
Prince Edward Island.
Prince Edward. They make a lot of vodka up there.
No. That would be Prince Igor. I think. Prince Igor vodka. Some very low quality vodka for you. Prince Edward Island is out east, and they make potatoes there. They make potatoes. I'm not pick them. They make them. No, I'm just kidding.
I love potatoes because they're the phoenix of vegetables.
All right, you have to explain that. You can do anything. What can a
They
phoenix
don't
do
go
anything?
bad. You buy a potato, it's in the cupboard too long, it starts growing roots. You stick it in
Yeah.
the dirt, it makes a bunch more potatoes. You never have to throw potatoes out. It's amazing. You eat
Friend
it
of
or
the-
you plant it.
Friend of the show and known Jon Fitch fan Dave who's obsessed with potatoes, is gonna like that. Why a phoenix?
Because the phoenix, like, whatever, it burns. It burns and then falls to the ground and then it rises from its ashes.
Are we going X-Men rules or?
That's the lore, right? That's the lore of the phoenix. It like bursts into flames and then the ashes crumble to the ground and then it
Right.
bursts a new phoenix. It like recycles itself.
Okay, next podcast, John. Recycling's a scam. Well, that will be the topic.
Yes, it is. Penn and Teller told us that years ago.
I'm more of a David Blaine guy.
To people about that. About it. How are you not throwing this in the recycling? I was like, recycling's a scam.
That's right.
Penn and Teller, come on, look it up.
I'm more of a David Blaine guy. I just like how he just speaks monotone. I've been in here for 6 weeks, and then he just Harrison Ford kicks him out of his house because he's got like stuff shoved in the apples or whatever, the fruit on the table. That means he scoped out your house before, people. If David Blaine has stuff hidden in your fruit, he's been in your house. There's no like magic to that. He just broke into your house when you weren't there and put stuff inside the fruit.
He paid the maid. That's why I don't let maids. I don't pay people to do my stuff. I do it myself.
You don't want.
David Blaine could just be like, maybe he spent billions of dollars like paying maids to go into people's houses and put stuff in things so that he can show up one day and be like,
Well, his early stuff is like he'll be doing a card trick, then he'll take a guy's watch off his wrist and in like the hood, and he'll show it to him, or he'll go and beat people at like their own dice game. Like that's his early stuff, where he's he's a criminal who just doesn't commit the crimes. Is how I would.
He does the crime in such a entertaining fashion. People don't get mad that he stole from
It's
him.
charming.
It's charming. Oh, that guy took my watch. I don't. He's so funny. I don't even care.
You remember the Chris Angel show? And then it just turned out like that was just literally acting. He's walking on water and stuff.
Yeah.
That's
I was in Vegas once, and I have a Chris Angel story.
Nice.
I was in Vegas once. We're at some after party in a club or whatever, and there was like Carrot Top and Chris Angel at a table, and they were like waved us over, and I was like, "Fuck you! What do you wave? What is this wave shit?" I was like, I was at a club once, and MC Hammer sent a representative over to the table to introduce himself, introduce MC Hammer, right, and ask permission if MC Hammer could come over and say hi. And I was like, MC Hammer is a freaking man. That's just straight up G stuff, like straight respect. Come over, bro. Come over. It's this wave shit.
If Mr.
Hammer
would like to know if he could send
Yeah,
his quote.
exactly. Hello, sir. I'm Julius.
He's also wearing parachute pants.
I'm an associate of MC Hammer. He'd love to meet you. Is it okay if he stops by your table?
How can he afford this?
It's like, shit.
Too Legit to Quit. I think that was my brother's first cassette that I listened to. It was Can't Touch This, and then song 2 was Too Legit to Quit. That's a throwback for you.
Yeah, I remember Can't Touch Us and Too Legit to Quit playing nonstop at the baseball diamond when I was buying gummy worms.
Where did you grow up?
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay. It's basically the same as here. No, it's not. But it's just a baseball diamond is why I asked. No, not the same as here. Enjoy the fact that you can move around and there's places to go that are affordable that aren't like the Arctic. You would have to find an affordable house here. For me, you have to move 8 hours, at least 4 hours away from the city. It's all taken up. Well, we're going to get into the weeds here. We can go soon, but it's all taken up by new immigrants, and then the boomers have moved out of the city and bought up those properties. So,
yep.
All right, John. Love to do this again. Thanks a lot for your time. Let me know if you've got anything coming up that I can write about. I appreciate you, man.
Awesome, Andrew. Thanks for having me. Good talking to you.